Okay. Hey, how's everybody doing? It's been about a week since my last video, which was in the dark, so I'm sorry about that, but got enough light now. Um, I woke up this morning, and today is a very special day with me and the Lord. And it's a day that is redeemed. Redeemed. And this redemption attribute of the Lord, which is really just a part of who He is what God wants me to talk about today. God is a redeemer. It's who He is. He can't help it. He redeems. He restores. He is life. He gives life. He brings beauty from ashes. He brings dead things to life. That's just who He is. So this is a story. I'm going to tell a story about redemption, redeeming the time. And I'm going to go all the way back 10 years ago. 10 years ago to this day. 10 years ago, 2007, March 28th. Okay, so I was working for a company where I drove a lot, and I worked on electronics. I repaired electronics and things like that. And I was driving to work. And I was taking the interstate. Well, actually, before that, I remember I was driving, and I was all the way almost to work. I was about 5 minutes away, and I stopped. I pulled over and I stopped in the middle of the road. It was early in the morning, so no one was driving, and I just sat there, and I remember thinking, "What's going on right now? Oh, I know. I forgot the key." So I drove back all the way back home, and I looked for the key. Well, I didn't have the key, and so about 20 minutes went by me looking for the key. Couldn't find it. So I drove back to work, but this time I took the interstate. The first time I took a small road, and this time I took the interstate. So I took the interstate, and I'm driving, got my music going in the morning. This was before I was walking with the Lord. This was before I was filled with the Holy Spirit. Before I knew I was filled with the Holy Spirit. Some of you guys know what I'm talking about. But I was driving, and it was raining. It was early in the morning. It was pretty dark outside. It wasn't really light yet, and I remember I was driving, and I'm driving, and it's raining, and I'm looking at the interstate, and I come over this hill, and I see this green SUV parked on the median, and the door was wide open, and I remember thinking, that's strange. And as soon as I thought that, all of a sudden, my car just started spinning on the interstate, spinning. It was like somebody took their hand and just started spinning the car. And I didn't have a seatbelt on. And I remember something holding me over the median of my car. And my whole car filled with light. No, it's dark outside. My whole car filled with light. And the only thing, and I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't walking with Jesus. I wasn't following Him. I wasn't reading my Bible. None of that. I was searching for Him in my heart at that time, but it wasn't anything like it is now. I was just kind of floundering around, really, at that time in my life. And I just gotta, this post is it's pretty vulnerable. I've never shared this publicly like this. I've never talked about that. I don't talk about it a lot. Not that I'm ashamed or afraid to talk about it. I'm not. But I just don't really talk about it that much. But I really felt like God put on my heart to talk about this. So, where's that? Yeah. So God's going to do something to this video. He's going to bring breakthrough for a lot of you guys. Breakthrough, and things that need to be redeemed. Things that have happened in your life that God is going to redeem. He's going to restore, and He's going to show you. See, when God restores and redeems something, He lets you know about it. He lets you know it's Him. Because He gets all the glory. We don't get any of it. We can't take any. Can't take any glory. Jesus gets the glory. So, let me back up. A few months before this thing happened, I was walking in a Walmart, and I was walking by the book section. And for some reason, I've never done this before, and I have never done it since. I walked by this book section, and I grabbed this book. It's called 90 Minutes in Heaven, Don Piper. Some of you guys know it. If you haven't read it, it's pretty good. You should read it. And it's a story about this man who got in a really bad car wreck, and he died, and he went to heaven, and he comes back, and somebody prayed for him. He came back from the dead, and after a few years told the story about what happened while he was in heaven. And so a few months before this thing happened to me, I had read that book. I didn't even know why. I didn't know why I picked it up. I didn't know why I grabbed it. It was just something in me. It was almost like, I wouldn't say something took control of me, but I definitely was thinking in my head, why am I doing this right now? And it was very strange. But I grabbed the book. I bought it. Never done it before. I've never bought a book from Walmart. Haven't done it since. But I read this book. And so it was already in my spirit, this book, 90 Minutes in Heaven. And here I am in the car. I'm spinning at 70 miles an hour. And something's holding me over on the median of my car. And my car is full of light. And, there's something about knowing what you're really made of in critical times. You find out. You find out what's really in you when you have totally lost all control and you don't, life and death is in the balance. You find out what's in you. You find out who's in you, if He is in you. And at that moment, the only thing that would come out of my mouth, I remember this, from the deepest place inside of me, this name came. And I remember I cried out, Jesus! I just cried out I'm saying with everything I have, just cried out His name. And as soon as after that was finished, I cried out His name, my car stopped immediately. And I was shocked. I looked up, and my car was perfect. It was like I had pulled over and parked on the shoulder of the road, in line with traffic. It was bizarre. Like, it shouldn't have happened that way. But I look up, and my windshield is covered in blood splatter, all up my windshield. And I was wearing a white dress shirt, and I look down, and I've got blood stain. Covered in blood, all down my shirt. And I got afraid, and I was thinking, oh no, so I started checking myself, and I realized I was fine, or I was in shock. I didn't know what was happening. And I turned to look behind me, and the whole back windshield of my car is gone. And then I look over in the grass, and then I see it. And I saw this man laying out in the grass. And he had no socks, no shoes on. And I remember thinking, oh no, 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 no. I started crying. And I opened the door and I crawled out. And I crawled over to him. And I remembered the book, 90 Minutes in Heaven. I have never prayed for anybody in my life. I had never believed or known that God could do these things, you know. All I knew is I read that book, and it's the only thing that came to my mind. And I remember I looked at him, and I mean, his head was twisted around, his arms were twisted around, his legs, everything twisted, and he was laying out in the grass. And I'm covered in his blood. And I put my hand on his shoulder, and I remember I had never felt more love for anyone in my entire life than I did this man at this moment. I didn't even know who he was. And I put my hand on him, and I began to pray. I didn't even know what to pray. I didn't know how to pray. I just began to pray. And the more I prayed, the louder the thunder got, and the more it started to rain. And I remember just crying. He didn't come back. He didn't come back, y'all. He's dead. And I remember I reached down and grabbed the grass, you know, just like, it was so surreal. I reached down and grabbed the grass and I pulled it up. I was just in so much anguish, like, of this man's passing. And it was so horrific. And I remember at that moment, you know, it just happened. And there were some people from down the road below who I looked and I saw them hopping over the fence to come up. But before they got to me, these arms wrapped around me. And it was like a female. And I remember I was hysterical. I mean, I was like all over the place. I was a mess. And these arms wrapped around me, and it was a woman, and she said, "Oh, it's gonna be okay." And she was just so calm and so comforting. And I remember I just kind of relaxed. I mean, I was still in shock, but I relaxed. And then about 5 or 10 minutes, I don't know how long the time, I was really in shock. And but all of a sudden, she wasn't there anymore. I don't know if this was an angel, if this was like a person. I mean, it was pretty quick after the accident happened. I don't know if it was possible somebody pulled over. But for them to be that calm and come and wrap their arms around me, they either were walking with Jesus or it was an angel, period. One of those two things. Anyways, the ambulance came. They picked me up, took me to the hospital, told my family to be watching for signs of suicide. That people who are in tragic situations like this, who go into shock, and they have these problems, and they think about taking their lives and things like that because of the guilt and everything. Well, a couple miracles happened with this, out of this tragic story. I mean, this is tragedy, someone passed away. Someone died, and I had something to do with it. Someone's life was gone, and I was directly involved with that, It was very, there's really no words I'm trying to describe it, but there's no words for you guys, I don't want to bum you out. This is a story about redemption, so I'm going to get back to it. But I remember I had night terrors for, I don't know how long, but for days. I was screaming at the top of my lungs in the middle of the night. I'm sorry, and I didn't mean to do it, just terrorized in my sleep. I remember at the time I was actually driving my girlfriend's car. I wasn't even on the car, and a couple miracles happened. Like one of the miracles was someone gave me the phone. I remember a family member gave me the phone, and the insurance company. It was the insurance company for the car, for the car I was driving, and they asked me a bunch of questions, and I don't even remember why. I remember just answering all these questions, and then later I found out that this insurance company, I'm not going to say the name because just for security reasons, privacy, they added me on to the insurance after the accident. I don't even know if that's legal, first of all. And second of all, why would they even do that? Because that was going to cost them more money. That's not a common practice, But it was God, because he was protecting. He was protecting me. He was saving me. Because when you cry out the name of Jesus, it says, whoever cries out the name of the Lord will be saved. Isn't that what it says? So they added me onto the insurance. And I remember I had the deposition where the family actually was pressing charges against me. And I remember taking that, and I did have a Bible. I was put in the Bible, and I said, Lord, I didn't have any control over this situation, and I'm just giving this to you. And I put it in the Bible. A couple of days after all the night terrors, I had a family member who's a minister. He's a pastor, and he came over. He's my cousin. And he prayed. He read I think he read Romans 8 or 9 with me, and prayed for me. And I remember after 3 days, all my the shock went away, and my joy was beginning to come back. And it was that's a miracle, because I was in a. If anyone, those of you who know me, know I'm very compassionate person. So the reality of, my hand being in something where someone's life is taken was very, very tragic to me. But God restored my joy. He's a redeemer. He redeems. He will redeem you, even when you don't even know what you're doing, even when you don't even understand what's happening, even when you're not even really following him. He redeems things. And if you look back in your life, you'll see all the things. If you ask the Holy Spirit, show me your redemptive power in my life, he's going to show you things you maybe not even thought about. Wow, you did that, God? Yeah, he did it. So that was in March of 2007. In July, on July 1st of 2007, I got married to my girlfriend, who was at the time. And we had a daughter. Her name is Layla. And Miss Layla was born on March 28th, 2008. 1 year to the day of this accident. Someone's life was taken on accident. And Jesus said, in his great mercy and his love towards me, I understand that, I'm sure he comforted the family, of the guy who passed away. But all I know is, on my end, what he did. And what he did was, he said, no, you're not going to think about death on this day. I'm redeeming this, and I'm going to give you life. And I'm going to show you life. And I'm going to bring life out of ashes. And that's what he did. And so my daughter was born. And today is her birthday. That's why I'm making this video. And she is 10 years old. Big 10. 10 years since this happened. I remember after the accident, God is so good. At the time, like I said, I wasn't following him. I wasn't didn't really know him. But he was all over me. And I didn't even really realize it. I remember like I said, I worked a job where I had to drive a lot, and I couldn't drive after that happened. I couldn't hardly ride in the passenger seat when someone else was driving. I would go into panic attacks and just anxiety, extreme anxiety. It was really bad. And I remember I went to work the day I had to go back to work. I had to go back to work, and it was pouring down rain. And I remember thinking, no, I can't do this. There's no way. There's no way. God help me. There's no way I can do this. Well, my boss was expecting me to go back to work, so I had to go back to work. So I got in the company van, and I headed out. I think it was, I don't know, probably like 3 or 4 hour drive. And God did a miracle for me. He made it stop raining. Now, the miracle, now you think, oh, that's not really a miracle. Well, I thought it was not raining. But on the highway, ahead of me, I could see the rain. And behind me, I could see the rain. But where I was driving, there was no rain. And it it was like a, it was like he a wall of rain in front of me, a wall of rain behind me, but not raining on me. And at first I thought it was a coincidence. And then it kept happening again and again and again. I don't know how many times it happened, but it happened enough where I knew without a shadow of a doubt that this was God, and he was protecting me, and he was comforting me, and he was showing me his grace. He was showing me his mercy. He was, at the same time, he was healing me, healing my heart. So this is the redemptive power of God. He redeemed the date. He redeemed the date. I didn't ask him for it. I didn't even know I needed it, but he did. He gives us all that we need. He doesn't always give you what you want, but he will give you what you need. He is a restorer. He is a healer. He is a lover. I'm telling you, I had a deposition. I had to go. This family was prosecuting me, and I'm not. I mean, they were doing what they felt like was the right thing. I get it. I wasn't mad at them at all. I'm still not. I went to this deposition. I just told the truth. I was like, this is what happened. And about a few months later, I get a phone call from an attorney saying the family is dropping all charges against you. It's just amazing. You know what I mean? Like, the crazy thing is if that insurance company wouldn't have added me on, I probably would have been charged with manslaughter. I would be in jail the rest of my life for this accident. That doesn't mean that's not a permission to not get things straight, not do things the way they need to be done. Yeah, we need to dot our I's and cross our T's and obey the laws of the land. That's not an excuse. This is an excuse for you not to do that. But I'm saying, when we're not aware, when we're ignorant to some things in life, like, God is still with us, and he still helps us. And he knew the purpose. He knew the plan that he had for me. He knew that I was going to be his messenger. He knew that I was going to work for him. I didn't even know it, but he knew it. And he worked all things out for the good, for those who love him and called according to his will and purpose. I didn't even know that I was called according to his will and purpose. I didn't even know that I did love him. He was doing this before I knew. Before I believed I said yes to him, he was doing this. And this is the power of our God. He restores things. We all go through things, and we all have troubles and trials in our life, but there's hope because we serve a God who redeems. He redeems. He's the Redeemer. I'm not trying to, I don't care about trying to preach real good or trying to, have people like look at me and say, wow, I want you to look at God, and I want you to see him in your life and see what he has done and what he is doing, and believe and hope. This is a message for hope, that God is going to redeem and restore things in your life that you thought were impossible to restore. relationships, finances. And sometimes in finances, you don't even think you think you think you need a bunch of money, but what you really need is the fear of lack to be delivered from your life. And sometimes he'll let some things pass, so you can deal with that fear, because he gives you he gives you the riches according to his riches. He gives you what you need. He gives you what you need. What you think you need might not be what you need, but you can trust him that he's faithful. He's faithful. This is a long video. Sorry guys, it's like almost 30 minutes long, but if you watch it all, I believe it's worth it. And share your stories of the redeeming power of God down in the comments. Let people know, and it's going to encourage people. It's going to bring hope, and I hope this video has helped you. And I bless you guys, and I love you, and have an awesome, awesome end of March.